I'm a feminist, but the other day on my Instagram feed, I saw a post that said, Charlotte Church hosts ICE defence training to protect migrants, saying, loving your neighbours is holy. And I thought, God, Charlotte Church is amazing, isn't she? Like, she's an incredible singer. She's doing Celebrity Traitors, and now she's working to defend people from ICE. And then I thought, can that be right? Because she lives in Wales. And then I read the rest of the article and realised it was, in fact, a church in Charlotte, North Carolina that was working against ICE. And I went, I think I partake in too much popular culture. There I am thinking of lovely Charlotte Church from Celebrity Traitors singing an aria and helping people to protect themselves from ICE. And it wasn't. It's a church in Charlotte. You can see how I was confused.
I could see. All right, okay, here's mine. I'm a feminist, but when Trump told that reporter, quiet piggy, I thought two things. Number one, absolutely diabolical. Second thing that I thought was merchandise when, because that's funny. I mean, it's funny because wait, stay with me. The reason why it's funny is because he is unaware that he has just contributed to the queer canon of things. Like, where I believe that what I remember actually when I was in GAY, my sort of kind of all my clubbing days was always going to queer clubs, always going to gay clubs. And I am pretty sure, about 85% sure, that I was in the toilet and a toilet attendant said, quiet piggy to me. And I remember thinking, fuck. Like, that's what I feel like he's contributed to and he doesn't realise. He's a queer icon, but one that we should
does anyone follow Bran Hatton on Instagram?
No.
Okay, get your phones out, follow Bran Hatton right now. What he does is he finds sort of homo-romantic bits of things that Trump has said when rambling in speeches, and then he lip-syncs to them like a gay man rolling his eyes and chatting, and he says Trump was born to be a gay man, and it's incredibly funny. But when you watch them back to back, you realise how many things he says, like he's a beautiful man, he's all man, I'd give him a kiss. I mean, I wouldn't take much pleasure in it, but I'd give him a kiss. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to follow Bran Hatton. It is quite intriguing. I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm a feminist. But in the dressing room tonight, we were talking about billionaires and how difficult it is for them to have functional relationships. I mean, we weren't bleeding hearts for billionaires, don't get me wrong. It was in the general talk about how poisonous that billionaire culture is. And I said spontaneously, I'm not interested in marrying a billionaire, but I am interested in divorcing a billionaire. How do I do that? And I stand by it. I just love... Wouldn't it be just fucking great to divorce Jeff Bezos?
Oh my God, I'd love that.
Just because his wife, who did divorce him, I mean, she's now spending all the money on...
She's just giving away her cash.
Yeah, just constantly giving away money to charities and interesting things in the arts, which must be... And I don't know if she's... can't speak to her character. She married Jeff Bezos, and that was clearly a character flaw.
Something happened.
And I think she built it up with him and all of that, but... I can't tell whether she's just doing it to piss him off, like Hannah Waddingham in Ted Lasso, just driving the football team into the ground to spite him, or whether or not she's genuinely feels for those causes. Yeah. But either way, if you know any billionaires who'd like to divorce me, let me know.
Okay, so my second one is I'm a feminist. But even though there have been absolutely horrendous DEI rollbacks, which has affected so many people, disproportionately black people, black women especially, in all spheres, including mine in entertainment, my God, it's so hard to get a job. I have to say that one of the things that I am very happy about as a result of that is shows like Hunting Wives and what I call recession indicators, like All's Fair. Stay with me. So who has seen All's Fair or just knows about this? Yeah, we have over here. So if you don't know All's Fair, this is the Ryan Murphy television show on Hulu, which stars Kim... I can't even say this. It stars Kim Kardashian.
Oh, this is one that's had the reviews.
Let me do the role. Glenn Close, Kim Kardashian, Sarah Paulson, who else is in there? Tiana Taylor's in there. Who else is in there? Naomi Watts. Like, what the fuck are they doing? And I watch those shows and I'm like, oh, everybody's in their struggle. Like, nobody's doing that because they're like, this script is amazing, and I think that Kim Kardashian might be Marlon Brando. They're doing it because they're in their way, comparatively, they're broke. They're broke bitches. And that makes me feel better when I get an availability check for true story. You might have to cut that out, actually, because you're not allowed to talk about the availability checks of shows. You're not, actually. I think I tweeted...
We can bleep it.
We can bleep
availability
it.
check for bleep.
Availability check for, I'll tell you guys, and I was
They want you to do... Listen to that.
I was...
Give the people what they want.
I was this fucking close. But I'm just like, look, everybody's in their struggle and it's making very
true. They've all got huge tax bills from last year.
Huge.
And no way of paying them this year unless they go to the Kardashian well.
Yeah.
And withdraw what they need to withdraw.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just deal with the fact that the reviews were always going to be what they are, which is, oh my God, what even is this? Yeah. The reviews are like, though, this isn't television, what is this? Yeah. It's a whole new genre.
I think there was a Guardian 1-star review that was like, why are they doing this to me? Which is cunt. Like, that is, and also the Instagram, I'm deep into this, the Instagram account for the show, they're not ignoring the shit reviews. They're up there. They're like, well, you are all fucking stupid because we're #1 in the charts. I'm like, that is, I love it. I just love the fact that no one has any morals. But bring back morals. But like, morals is funny in television and casting. That's and Hunting Wives, sick, amazing. It's just like blonde women with guns and rifles.
Is that a drama or a reality show?
It's no. You're thinking of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, I think. Very similar, not similar,
but Hunting Wives is not. No, anything with wives in, I assume, is a reality show.
No. This is a drama. And it's about lots of white women, and they're like, "Hey, welcome to the city." And then they drink mimosas like in slow motion, and you're like, "When are you gonna fuck?" I love it. Oh God, I love it. But yeah, everyone's poor, so.
So basically what you're saying is you're enjoying Glenn Close being poverty-stricken enough.
I'm loving it.
Step up to that particular place.
If this is what DEI rollbacks are and women are just not getting jobs and we're doing this, I'm like, well, at least let the fall of Rome be entertaining.
Live from the Bill Murray Comedy Club in London, the Spontaneity Shop presents The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest co-host Susan Wokoma, and our very special guest, Jane Bradley from the New York Times, talking about reform's ties to the ADF. Hello, and welcome to The Guilty Feminist, and this is the 5th in our Road to Gilead series. I'm so excited to be here tonight. This is one of the ones I was looking forward to the most, and they've all been amazing, by the way. It's just been so incredibly exciting. Just give us a cheer if you've listened to The Guilty Feminist before. Give us a cheer if you don't know what you're at. Yes. You, sir. I don't want to assume your gender. Is it sir? Yes. I can say sir. Yes, excellent. Have you been brought as a +1? As a friend. Okay. I don't know now if this is a date, or I feel like you think it's a date, and he's just said no, it's not. That's what's just happened. Broken-hearted, yes. What made you come? Him.
Very fond of my friend.
You're very fond of your friend. This is a very interesting relationship. You're so fond of him, you agreed to come to feminism.
Yes, absolutely.
Would you call yourself a feminist? For sure. Great. Well, you certainly would here, because it's very difficult to get to the exit. And you could be, honestly, there could just be a crush. And, who'd go down for it? It'd be murder on the Orange Express. No one would be to blame. Well, I'm delighted to have you. Anyone else doesn't know what this is? Excellent. And again, are you? I don't want to impose gender on you. Are you another man? Yes. Excellent. I'm sure that's not the way to do it. I don't want to impose a gender. Are you another man? And why are you here, sir?
+1.
You're also a +1.
Platonic friend.
God, they're really quick tonight to make that clear. Platonic friend. Normally, we get a lot of men bringing women here on third dates. Yeah, it's true. It's third dates. It's a third hinge date hangout, the Guilty Feminist. Because there's date 1, walk you home, nice kiss at the door. Date 2, oh, yeah, we went to a movie, we talked about it, lovely. Date 3, look how safe I am, I'm taking you to feminism. I'm such a feminist, I've bought tickets for the feminist show. This could not be safer, this could not be a better bet for you. Where else in London will you find this? Nowhere, do me. But not tonight. Anyone here on a date? Just give us a cheer. Why was there only 1 cheer? I think there needs to be a minimum of 2 cheers for a date, doesn't there? And we are in North London. It could be 2 or anything up. I mean, now we're all in polycules, apparently. So just 1 person on a date.
That was me, Deborah. Susan Wokoma, your co-host at the back.
Oh! That was Susan Wokoma, my co-host at the back. She's here on a date with me. Oh, no, hold on. You are here on a date. I forgot that. Yes, absolutely. Sorry. Oh, I thought you were saying it's like we're on a date. We're always on a date. Yes. No, I just realised there is also a man here. Yes. 2 and up. Excellent. Polycule, anyone? Anyway, we're not here to talk about polycules. We can always change the theme. People seem keen. No, we're here to talk about feminism, and specifically the Road to Gilead series is about the rise of Christian nationalism and far-right populism and what we're all going to do about it. So I want to talk to you about that, but firstly I want to tell you about something that happened to me this week. I was invited to appear on stage at the Royal Albert Hall for the Choose Love 10th birthday show. Happy birthday, Choose Love! If anyone doesn't know what Choose Love is, they support displaced people and partners on the ground, grassroots operations working with around the world with displaced people. And they're an absolutely brilliant organisation. And we have done various projects with them over the years. And so they very sweetly said, we're doing this big show and we'd love you to do a little bit. And it was just a link and they sent it to me during the week. And it was, you know, it was like two jokes and now bring this person on. That's all it was. And I was like, oh, that's so nice they've included me. And of course I'd love to do that. It's always nice to be on stage at the Royal Albert Hall because it's so amazing. And wanted to be with the lovely, lovely Choose Love people. So I thought this is absolutely great. And on the way there, I got a message saying, oh, someone's dropped out. Do you mind doing a different segment? I said, anything you want. It's not my night. It's your night. I can support in any way. They said, we'll give you the cards. So I get there. I go backstage. They put me in a green room. They give me the cards. I'm going over the cards. And then someone comes and says, would you like to have some glam? Now, do you know what glam is? You two? Yes, you do. Okay. Have you had it? On occasion, you've had glam. So they take you to a special room and then someone zhuzhes your hair and someone powders your nose and that kind of thing. So I was like, yes, of course I'll have glam before I go on stage. And so they take me to a special room and the chap's being very thorough with my hair. And I'm thinking, oh, this is taking rather a long time. I hope it's not taking too long. But I thought, well, they know where I am. They've brought me here. And then suddenly someone comes down the hallway going, you've got to come right now, and sort of drags me away from the blow dryer. And then as we're walking down the corridor, they get a little message on the radio, she's got to run. So I start running. She's not going to make it, and there's going to be dead air on the stage at the Royal Albert Hall. So I'm running down the hallway of, you know, with my shoes, with my high heels on, at the Royal Albert Hall, thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to get there. I get into the wings, and someone just thrusts cards in my hands and pushes me out onto the stage, like pushes me in the back and says, I think I'm not mic'd. And they go, microphone on the left. And so I go out onto the stage, and I've got what's on. I'm just gonna bring it up. Hold on. I've got the card ready here on my phone. So this is what I have to say. Wow, thank you so much. And bear in mind, I'm literally just being pushed out of a hair chair onto a stage. And I'm reading as I go, and I've barely looked at this. Wow, thank you so much. That was Ukrainian British violinist Roman Litwinov and cellist Robert Wheatley. I was very moved, and I'm sure you were too. You could really feel the spirit of the people of Ukraine filling the Royal Albert Hall in that beautiful piece of music. Now please give your attention to this very important video. Then I look up, the video starts, I leave the stage. And I think, it's a bit weird, like, I've sort of almost missed it, you know, but it was nice to do it, absolutely fine. So I go back to the green room, collect my stuff, and I say to a runner, it's such a labyrinth back there, and I haven't got two spatial skills to rub together. So I said, would you mind just walking me back to the door so I can find my seat? And the chap starts walking me down the aisle and then the corridor, and then he goes, are you sure you should go back to your seat? Because you're back on stage in 20 minutes. And I went, what? And he goes, yeah, you're back on stage in 20 minutes. And I said, am I? I said, sure, I'm only doing one link. He said, no. I said, oh, okay. Well, I said I'm happy to, you know, chip in with anything. That's absolutely fine. So he takes it back down. I said, can I see the cards now? Because there were some quite tricky names and I didn't really get to rehearse that enough. And he goes, yeah, and a lady comes over and gives me the cards. And I look at the card and it says, wow, thank you so much. That was Ukrainian British violinist. I said, but this is the one I've already done. And she went, yeah. We gave you the wrong card. I said, so are you telling me that Ukrainian British violinist Roman Litwinov and cellist Robert Wheatley didn't play? She went, no. I said, so what had the audience just seen? She said, a Sudanese rapper. I said, I did think they were very unresponsive. She said, well, look, if you don't want to do it again, we'll just do it like a voice of God or send someone else out. I said, oh, no. I said, this is going to be the biggest laugh of my career. I'm not going to miss it. So I go into the wings and I watch Ukrainian British violinist Roman Litwinov and cellist Robert Wheatley, and to be fair, they are moving. And indeed Ukrainian. And when they're finished, I walk out calmly to the microphone on the left and I say, wow. And the audience laugh harder than you do now. Then I say, thank you so much, and they laugh again. Then I say, that was Ukrainian British violinist Roman Litwinov, and they laugh again. And I say, and cellist Robert Wheatley, I was very moved. And I'm sure you were too. And then I say, I feel I owe you an explanation, Royal Albert Hall. I lied before when I said I was moved. I wasn't moved. I'm a feminist, but I was in glam getting my hair done. So I hadn't seen it. Clearly, because what you saw was a Sudanese rapper. And when I said you could really feel the spirit of the people of Ukraine filling the Royal Albert Hall in that beautiful piece of music, not one of you said, no, you couldn't. Where's a heckler when you need one? And honestly, that was the greatest gig of my career. I have never been more popular after a gig. The number of people, famous people crossing the room to go, oh my God. And Choose Love were like, oh my God, we're so sorry. I said, no, don't even worry. I said, I know these things are made of, all volunteers and everything is made of sticky back plastic and string. There's no time for rehearsals. Of course, I wasn't worried. They said, well, some people wouldn't have been so good about it. I said, well, some people would have no sense of humour because obviously that was the greatest gig of my or anyone's career. I might be the only person ever to introduce the same person twice at the Royal Albert Hall, once when they hadn't appeared. You can only imagine how thrilled British violinist Roman Litwinov and cellist Robert Wheatley were when I told them that they'd been thanked twice for one performance and possibly were the only Ukrainian string double act that had ever happened to. But what that meant was that being able to do a do-over, I was able to say how much I admired what Josie had done at Choose Love in bringing people together of all walks of life, people who had all sorts of different thoughts for a coalition of kindness and compassion. And that what's happening in this country right at the moment, across Europe, around the world, wherever you're listening to this podcast, is that there is, and this is absolutely documented, it's factual, it's really happening. It's not, really, do we really have to worry about it? Yes, we do have to worry about it. There's a hell of a lot of American money, organization coming into this country to try and change the fabric of our society. And what I was able to say to them was that meant that now we have a Labour government who is bold-facedly saying that when people who've lost their partner or been separated from their partner in a war zone or other horrors comes here, we're going to rip the wedding ring off their finger and we're going to sell that in a pawnbrokers to pay for their night at some shitty, student accommodation or something like that. I mean, are you serious with this? And not only is that a Labour government, but Tommy Robinson is saying, well done, you're going further than I was going to. I mean, and this is why we have young women in this country suddenly talking about wanting to be high-value women, girls talking about having low body counts. This is why we have churches starting to preach Christian nationalism that has nothing to do with Christianity or anything Jesus said. That is why we are seeing Christian nationalists walking through Soho intimidating the gay community. That is why we are seeing trans rights being diminished to an extent where we're looking at guidance that says trans people can go to neither loo. And if there's no third space, they're going to have to campaign for it. And where do they pee in the meantime? I mean, this is what we are looking at right now. Now, they are challenging and seeking to destroy what I would call the best British values of kindness, compassion, celebration of difference, and the greatest British value of all, in my opinion, that of really not giving a fuck about what your neighbours are doing. There can't be arseness of it all. I don't give a fuck. If I don't want to have an abortion, I don't want to have an abortion, but I'm not curtain twitching to see what you're doing across the road. And that is honestly one of the greatest parts of British life. People don't really give a fuck what anyone else is doing. If you want to be gay, you be gay. Have your parade. It's nothing to do with me. If I'm not interested in that, if I'm not gay, if I don't have gay friends and family, I'm not going to kick up a fuss about. That is where we've got. I mean, that's modern Britain. Obviously, that's not the history of Britain. But I feel for the past few decades, it has been going in the right direction. And it really does help that we can't be asked to challenge other people's differences because we've got stuff on and we're watching Strictly and we've got a lot of celebrity traitors to get through. And I feel like they're trying to come in with their, angry signs out the front of abortion clinics and work people up. And I have to say, it is working. We in this country, in my opinion, love not giving a fuck as much as Trump apparently loves Mamdani. Handbrake turned bromance none of us saw coming. To the extent where, did you see this journalist said to both of them, in front of both of them, said, Mr. Mamdani, you have called Donald Trump, President Trump, a fascist. Do you stand by that? Now you're standing next to him in the Oval Office. And Mamdani, without compromising, wanted to give an answer that was also not, yeah, he's a cunt. And because he's a charming chap. And he just said, well, President Trump and I have made it clear that we've got very different. And Trump just put his hand on his arm and went, it's fine, you can say yes. And Mamdani went, okay, yes then. And Trump went, it's just easier. Has Mamdani got some kind of secret powers? We don't know. It may turn out he's a Jedi. I hope so. It may be that Trump is just understanding that he's a winner and wants to be next to the winner and in with all the New Yorkers. But it does show that when he wants to, he can not call someone a piggy. You know what I mean? Like, he can actually be charming when he wants to, which is really interesting because it means most of the time he actually wants actively to insult women. And it's interesting. I'd be very interested to see if he would ever act that way to a woman. Well, I know that he wouldn't. I don't know why I'm saying it. So these far-right, ultra-conservative, so-called Christian nationalists are changing the fabric of our society. And I truly believe that if the half of the country that didn't want to be ruled by Europe understood what was going on, they damn well wouldn't want to be run by the Guns for Jesus speaking in tongues lobby from America that are currently in the White House. So it's our job to expose what's happening. And by our job, I mean us, the people in this room. Why? Because you're the ones that have got your shoes on and have left the house to come here to be interested enough to see this. By definition of that, it's our job. I will be assigning roles this evening. Lock the doors. On the 17th of January, we are doing an open space day where we come up with ideas for grassroots movements so that we can work in coalition. I've been very, very privileged on this series and through other work to be able to recently speak to people in the House of Lords, in running churches, in education, and they've all said the same thing. It has totally changed. The atmosphere has totally changed. The push for far-right Christian nationalism is very real, very, very present. They are very organized. They're incredibly well-funded. We are a bunch of little grassroots hobbits in foxholes getting picked off. If we will not step up, move forward, and link arms with people who may not be our natural bedfellows, we are not going to win. But do you know what I'm excited about? I've never seen anything like this. I'm feeling it now. I feel more hope for this country and progressive movements globally than I have ever felt in my life. Because I think what Mamdani's showing us, the fact that Zach Polanski is now in the opinion polls, as of 3 days ago, second only to Reform, has really gone past the Conservatives and Labour, and growing because Mamdani's Polanski's very new. What it's showing me is this. The time for that mealy-mouthed centre position of, it's the best we can do, is gone. It's become so divided that people want more. And I don't think what Polanski and Mamdani are saying is a very radical position at all. They're saying real people want to be able to pay their bills, want decent childcare, want to celebrate difference in our society, and don't want their homes to go underwater in the next 1 to 25 years. That's all they're saying. It's the most unradical thing I've ever heard. And I think we have a real opportunity now, and I feel the excitement for it. I mean, all of these shows have sold out with a waiting list. We've got another one on the 6th of December, but we're going to put more on. So if you want to hear more about it, just go to guiltyfeminist.com, click mailing list, and you'll be first in line for all the rest of the shows, because everyone was trying to get tickets for tonight, and most people couldn't. I know it's a small venue and a hot venue, but we decided to do 6 small shows rather than 2 big shows, because we thought more neighborhoods, more bites of the cherry, more guests. And it has felt really exciting, like the first days of the Guilty Feminist again, where it feels really grassroots. It also feels like uncomfortable chairs and overheating, but that's the struggle, that's the fight, right? It feels like we're back to something really meaningful, and I'm really excited about it. And I truly, truly believe that we are the tide, and it is turning. I think it is down to us. And I'm so excited to be part of that us and to be at the center of something that means we have so much purpose over the next 3.5 years. And I'll finish just by saying something that I've said at every one of these shows. The truth is we might lose. And if we do lose, on day 1, we are going to need an organized, engaged, loving resistance. We are going to need an army, and we are going to need to be ready on day 1. Nothing you do in the next 3.5 years is wasted. If we lose, we will need this much more. So gather. There's the time for bickering's done. The time for I'm not sure about that is done. I had Lucy Winkett on here the other day, who was the Reverend at St James's Piccadilly. We're going to do a show in St James's Piccadilly because there are churches in London preaching Christian nationalism and that women should be in subjection to men. I came out of a cult like that, not having my whole country turn that way. And I will work with, and people who know me know I'm not a church person. I was in a religious cult. But right now, I will work with people who are compassionate in churches, who have a faith that is grounded in community and compassion. And I absolutely will work with whoever we need to work with pride. If we are to win this, we are going to have to do that. And I want to do it. And I'm excited to do it. And by the way, I really love Lucy. I hope you come to that show when we organize it. Please sign up to the mailing list. Please, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, I'm looking at you, hit subscribe. Even if you don't listen every week, it really helps if you subscribe. And this podcast night is going to be brilliant because our guest is incredible. And so if you could just share it with everyone you know, put it in your WhatsApp groups and tell people to listen. And on that note, are we ready to start the show? Please welcome to the stage my co-host for this evening. It's the incredible Susan Wokoma.
Oi, 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 oi.
How are you, Susan Wokoma?
I'm grand. I nearly cried about 15 times during that, Debs.
Oh,
I love you very much.
that was my only mission.
Just to make me cry.
Yeah,
No,
just to generally evoke tears.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to be here with you guys. Pleasure, pleasure.
It does feel quite...
Oh, got ya.
See,
Working together.
see, when I talk about we're going to get organised and then I can't manage a clipboard on a dress,
That is true.
it really makes people lose faith in the whole operation.
I'm a feminist, but when you said we've got to get organised, I was like, but
Yeah,
you're not
I've got-
up front. We all have our job in the revolution. We talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
We can't all be up front.
No, I have ADHD,
Yeah,
so I'm not the
that's
one...
what I was getting at. I wasn't just randomly
No,
insulting.
I'm not the one that should be doing the diaries.
Yes.
Or returning the emails.
Yeah.
But we all should know our place in the whatever we can bring. Not our place, but our skill set, our role.
Yeah.
So
So mine would be like mime, and and just general bants is mine. Yeah.
You went to the RADA.
I went to
and
and all I learned was mime and general.
I saw you on Taskmaster every time
Yes,
you were
mime
made.
and general pants.
Every time you were made to do something ridiculous on Taskmaster, there would be this running joke of £30,000 at RADA
that was a
spent
lot
on
of
this.
debt, yeah.
And now I'm trying to get a watermelon out of a box between
Yeah.
my knees.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's how it's paid off for me. You do, of course, many brilliant and very glamorous jobs, but that was the
That was
funniest
my
one.
highlight.
No, that was the absolute.
when I
That was the
peaked.
most hysterical one. But I know because you went to RADA, you have a very beautiful voice and a straight back, and those things are important. Those things are so important for when we need inspirational speakers. And when we start having our rallies, when we start having our big rallies, you will be called upon to employ those things. That's where the £30,000
I'm gonna
comes back.
when we have the rally, I'll be there at the front with a backless dress. Just like look
That
at
helps.
It. Look at it, guys. Hello.
Which actually, that brings me to... This is The Guilty Feminist, the podcast in which we explore our noble goals as 21st century feminists and our hypocrisies and insecurities which undermine them. I'm Deborah Frances-White. With me is Susan Wokoma, and today we are talking about the incredible New York Times expose about reforms ties to the ADF and therefore MAGA. And we are going to get into that. If any of you don't know what that is, we're going to break it down for you in a minute. But before we do that and get our guest on, Susan Wokoma has prepared some stand-up comedy. Would you like to hear it? Yeah! So please welcome to the stage the incredible Susan Wokoma!
yeah. Every time I do this, I always say, let you all know that I'm not a stand-up comedian. I'm not, I know, because she's so funny. But no, I'm not. I sort of fell into comedy. I think that as a punter, as like a person, I've always been drawn to comedy. I've always loved it. It's always the place that I go to when I'm feeling sad. And then when I became an actor, it just was a thing that sort of fell in my lap. And then sometimes I get called a comedian and I didn't find that a slur. So I thought I'd run with it, and then Deborah brought me on board. And yeah, and no, but like a lot of RADA trained people be like, no, I'm not a comedian, I'm just a trained actor. But I was like, fuck it, that sounds fun. So I've been cosplaying as a comedian ever since. But I just wanted to talk to y'all. How is everybody's 2025? By sound of yells, has it been good? Yeah. Oh God. I'm gonna be real with you lot. Mine's been fucking shit. It's been a struggle. Do you know what's really hard about having a difficult year for me? I'm somebody who, since I can remember, I've always like read my horoscopes. I've always been like, what is in store for the next year? And it's a combination of being born on New Year's Eve. I always make my, New Year's resolutions. I'm like, what do I want? What do I want? And at the end of 2024, I did that again. I made a little vision board. How cute. What a twat. I made a vision board. I had hopes and I had dreams. And I entered 2025 and I was like, let's see. And pretty abruptly, it was like, this is not yours, my guy. This is not your year. It's been really, really tough, guys. Starting with an event that happened. Deborah had a wonderful book. Who's bought Deborah's book, 6 Conversations We're Scared to Have? That's not enough people. firstly. So, like, please buy the book. Don't want to be, like, stressy at you, but you have to buy it. And so it's an incredible book. And we were at your book launch and you were surrounded by love and everybody was just so excited to be there for you. And I was there and I was like, whew. You know, yes, it's quite early on in the year, it's March, but, you know, it's feeling a little bit, I've got a funny feeling about this year. She was right. A lovely woman comes up to me and I was meant to be starting a film job that I've been attached to for quite a few years. And with everything that's really scary for women across the board, like, there's all these figures, like, what is it? In the first few months of 2025, 300,000 black women in the US lost their jobs. And I'm having these conversations with a lot of women of all different races going, these opportunities are going and these opportunities are going. A lot of my trans friends, a lot of my queer friends, all these opportunities, nightlife, something that a lot of them have relied on for an income. All these things are going. And I think that's what it was. Because, like, growing up, I've always felt galvanized by, if I'm not having a good time, other people are having a good time. And that makes me feel hopeful. That's like, it will get good. It doesn't always have to be me. I've always been inspired by people. And increasingly, by the time I was at Gorgeous Debs' book launch, I was like, everyone's having a bad time. And then this lovely lady comes up to me and we're talking about this film that I'm in, and there's an actor in it that we're discussing. She really, really likes. She wants to cast him in another feature film. And I'm like, yeah, he's lovely, genuinely lovely guy. And she was like, yeah, but of course, we'll have to wait a few weeks because, of course, you guys start filming in 2 weeks. That was the first I heard of it. Yep. And I've been signed on for this film since, like, 2022. And that's how I found out. And it really, really sucked. And then 2 weeks later, my mum died. So that was, yeah, you have to say, oh, thanks. It makes it all worth it. It does. So it was a really, really tough time and I didn't know what to do. And I started to find it really hard to see the future. So I haven't, guys, I'll be honest with you, I have not read my horoscope since April, which, if you know me, call the police. Something's wrong. Like, I haven't checked what? I haven't been to see a strange woman in Soho going, you will meet a man. In how long? And I mentioned this to a few friends, going, I can't see the future. And of course, that's the micro. I'm not talking about the macro. I'm not talking about the horrors that we talk about often, me and Deborah, about what is going on in the world and the helplessness of it. And I couldn't see the future. All these, like, landmarks and things that I wanted to achieve just became darker and grayer and mistier. And I spoke to a friend and she told me, you're going through something called foreshortened future, which is a response to PTSD. Because, guys, there's a lot more I'm not talking about that's happened in the last few years. And she said, you'll find it really hard to see the future. It's a response. It's sort of making you remain here because the future is uncertain and it's really, really scary. And that made a lot of sense because I didn't know what I was thinking. Was it suicidal ideation? What was it? Why can't I see my next birthday? Why can't I think about that thing that I agreed to do next week? And when she told me that that's what it was, I was like, right, so what do I do? And so, of course, I went on Google and it said you need positive activities, getting out of the house, being in community. Online will not do. Around this time is when me and Debs were talking about Road to Gilead, which actually you've been talking about for a very, very long time. But I felt like there was such a call to arms to start getting into rooms. I didn't know whether I would be okay enough to stand in front of you and be here. But it is so important that we are in rooms. It's so important to be surrounded by people like Debs who galvanise you and who remind you what is important. Yes, the future is still a little bit murkier, but being here and talking about us and what we can do together makes that foreshortened future just a little bit more lengthy. And that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
Susan Wokoma, everybody!
All right. Give me a job. Stop clapping. Give me a job and admire my back.
I'm just going to do some juggling. This is
some juggling. Okay.
This is this page is really made for one person doing stand-up, not three people talking about important things to someone very fancy. But here we are. I love this venue though. I do love it. I love it feels good, doesn't it? It feels like we're at the beginning of a revolution. Our guest today is fancier than me or Susie. She is a Pulitzer Prize finalist who has been working in Britain for 15 years and today is wearing very impressive brogues. Originally from Yorkshire, she is now the New York Times top investigative journalist, and together with Elizabeth Dias, she broke the story about reforms, ties to the ADF and therefore MAGA. Please welcome to the stage, I'm so excited for her to be here, Jane Bradley.
Hello.
Is that working?
On. Is that on? Can you hear me? Is that on?
Is that working? Can you
Testing.
Yes, that's working, yes.
I can be loud.
Now, Jane, you can't imagine how excited we are to have you. Isn't that correct, Susie? Because I watched All the President's Men about the Watergate scandal and watched, these men running around. And I watched it a couple of years back again, and I went, there's no women in this. And then I found out that a woman was very instrumental, but she wasn't portrayed at all. The only woman there was a couple of women in it, but I mean, it was like they were referred to as that girl who's going with that guy. And she, all she was there to do was to be interrogated by these men. And I feel like I'm now sitting with somebody of that caliber, and I'm sitting with that person who is, in 2025, of course, a woman. So I'm so delighted that you're here. And can you please tell us why you agreed to come on?
Yeah, I feel like I should just put a disclaimer out that is the most incredible introduction, but I'm actually from Hull, so I've never been described.
I just want these guys to be able to see your lovely faces. You introduce yourself, I will be back, don't worry.
I was going to say.
No, don't worry.
What did I say?
I've had enough.
Susie's retired. And this is
Bloody tired, guys.
This is a really dramatic
My back
exit.
is not that straight. No, let me not upstage you. I just wanted these lovely guys to see you introduce yourself, and then I'll be back.
Okay. Basically, I'm not that fancy. I'm from Hull. Like, I work for the New York Times, but I'm not American. I'm not from New York. Hull is nothing like New York. But thank you for that lovely introduction. I was really excited to come talk to you about this really depressing, worrying subject. I'm a big fan of the Guilty Feminist podcast, and I think this is one of those issues where there is not, the issues being the influence of the US anti-abortion movement in British politics today, that it's kind of, we're a bit complacent about. Like, when I first started investigating this, and I've never reported on the anti-abortion movement before, because British politics is not America. And when I started reporting on this with my colleague Elizabeth Dias, I was kind of like, what are they doing? What's the point? Like, everyone supports abortion over here. Like, why are they targeting the UK? We're not the US. And she had some warnings for me. She's reported on the anti-abortion movement in the US for pretty much the past 20 years. She's written a book on Roe v. Wade, and what she said is that that's exactly the attitude we had over here. Like, we thought abortion rights were settled, it was a constitutional right, and progressives, many of kind of women's rights activists were kind of complacent and thought it couldn't be done. And they underestimated the anti-abortion movement over there.
Absolutely. And I feel like we must not be complacent here, because there's a lot of money and a lot of strategy and a lot of patience in what they're doing. Could you, not everyone here, lots of people have come here because they read the New York Times article and they wanted to see you, but not everyone will have a subscription to the New York Times, and some people won't really know what this is about. So could you give us the headlines of what this expose in the New York Times was about?
Yeah, so basically what it found was that Nigel Farage and his Reform Party has been secretly working with probably America's most influential anti-abortion group, a group called the ADF, or Alliance Defending Freedom. And this group really played a key role in overturning Roe v. Wade. It's very, very influential in the White House. The allies as far up as like J.D. Vance, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. And they've basically set their sights on the UK. And in doing that, they're playing kingmaker with Nigel Farage and Reform, and they're trying to expand their influence in the US, where they've kind of won the fight over there, to the UK, with the ultimate purpose of rolling back abortion rights over here.
So, Susie, do you
Yes,
want to
I'm coming
ask a
back.
question? Should I sit there now so that you can see her? Can you all see
It's
her?
all good. No, I'm slightly more on a slant this end. Sorry to make it all about me. But so you said, that there is this complacency, I think, here. Like what everyone's kind of, it's a bipartisan kind of agreement that most people agree that abortion is okay or should be down to, individual choice. So what made you decide to pursue this story?
So I came across it because I've spent most of this year looking into the rising influence of Reform. I've reported on kind of nationalist, far-right trends in the UK for the past 15 years or so. And I'd kind of been really interested in like the money and influence behind Reform as it kind of rose up through the polls and the opinion polls, winning the seats in the local elections. And I was really interested in foreign influence in particular, obviously looking to the US, also Russia, but that's a separate talk. And I'd noticed that Farage, for the first time in his 31-year political career, had started speaking out against abortion, which I thought was weird because, as you said, that's not a vote winner over here. And I'd also noticed that the ADF was basically expanding its UK presence, and by that I mean it was increasing the amount of money it funnels into its UK operations, the amount of staff it's got over here, and also really taking on these high-profile legal cases ultimately about abortion. But they frame it around Christians who are persecuted for thought crimes, for silently praying outside abortion clinics. And then, like most good stories, it started with a long, boozy lunch with a Reform source. And this source basically said, I was asking about how it was going and kind of who they were working with in the US and whether they'd had any success over there. And this source said, oh, well, if you're interested in that, you should look into the ADF. And I was vaguely aware of them because of their expanded presence here. Mm-hmm. And I said, why? What are they up to? And he basically said, look, they're basically positioning themselves as a power broker between Trump's MAGA Republicans and the UK right. And I later found out that was specifically Reform and Nigel Farage. Right.
Now, can I ask about this? Because I read at the end of the article, it says that you and Elizabeth interviewed over 40 people to get this story, to break this story, and including officials from the ADF and Reform. How do you go about doing this? Like, what's the process? I'm very intrigued as to how you do it.
So it started off with a tip-off with that Reform source I mentioned, right. And just kind of generally being aware of what was going on in that world. And then I thought, you know what, with this story, I'm just going to go through the front door. I'm just going to go to the ADF and be like, hey, what are you up to in the UK? And I wouldn't normally do that, but I had no record of writing about the anti-abortion movement. There was nothing for them to see whether they could kind of figure out if I'd done any exposés or had any thoughts on them. And also I thought, they're trying to expand in the UK. They've got no profile. They're basically going to be desperate for media publicity, and I think they're going to think they can kind of control it or shape it. So I went to them for an interview request, and they said yes. I then had a 90-minute interview with two of their lawyers who are kind of leading their UK expansion, where they basically told me almost nothing. Nothing specific. So it was enlightening in that what they told me about what their long-term strategy was made me think this is a really important story. And I was surprised by how kind of direct they were. So when I was like, okay, but what are you doing in the UK? Yes, I know you're doing these abortion clinic, these prayer cases, but what's the long-term goal? And eventually the lead lawyer was just like, yeah, look, we think that Britain's got one of the most extreme anti-abortion regimes in the world, and we want to see the 24-week limit rolled back, basically replicating, in a sense, what they did in the US. So the fact they, eventually, having cut through all their messaging is like, this is free speech, it's not abortion, it's free speech, not abortion, because they know abortion doesn't really play well politically here. But they admitted that and basically said it was kind of their part of their wider goal to empower Christianity in Europe. And they kind of saw the UK as this really useful bridgehead to do that. So that kind of overall strategy is what made me think, you know, fuck, this is important. This is bigger than just these individual cases. And then they told me nothing about the meetings, like I said, or specifics. So I was like, how are you trying to do that? Gave me nothing. So by that point, I thought, okay, my source is telling me my reform source is telling me they're playing power broker and they're between Trump and the UK right. So what are the meetings? What are the examples of this? And the first event he told me about was, I don't know if you guys remember, but it made massive headlines at the time. Vice President J.D. Vance stood up at the Munich Security Conference, which is one of the biggest international political stages out there, and gave this really extraordinary speech where he basically attacked the UK for its record on free speech, and he cited all these ADF cases about this guy, Adam Connor Smith, a veteran who was arrested outside a abortion clinic for silently praying, and it just had all of kind of the ADF's fingerprints on that. So I wanted to know, like, how did the Vice President of the United States end up citing all these ADF cases on this huge stage? And my reform guy said he had been told that it was the ADF who'd actively briefed him. Now, in the end, I couldn't prove it. I could prove he told people that's what he did, but, you know, I didn't have the, like, smoking gun email. But what I did do from that, I asked about other meetings or other briefings that the ADF had brokered, and I then tried to find out exactly who was in those meetings. So on every side, the Republicans, reform officials, there were a lot of kind of right-wing conservative civil rights groups in there, like the FSU, the Free Speech Union, led by Toby Young. And I tried to get in that room. I found a list of people. I tried to get them and tried to get as many people telling me, okay, how did that meeting happen? Who briefed who? And what was the ADF's role? And eventually we stood up that there were 3 key meetings and briefings that the ADF had brokered between these really influential US politicians and Farage, including, you know, a secret breakfast meeting in March, where we saw texts for them going, this has to be off the record, I don't want anyone to know about this, where Farage and this, like, really senior Trump appointee discussed abortion buffer zones and online censorship laws. And it kind of accumulated in this big, and again, this is probably the one that got the most headlines, Farage going to Congress in September and testifying against the UK and its free speech rules, and where he said, you know, the UK is heading into North Korea and all the rest.
Oh
so he
God.
kind of used, I mean, obviously.
I mean,
can you not see the similarities? But again, it was like, the fact that it was packaged in this free speech messaging, because it plays well for the ADF, it plays well for Farage and Reform. And I was just fascinated by all the, like, behind the scenes political maneuvering and lobbying and influence that I wanted to kind of bring to the light. Because there's nothing wrong with them doing this, like, lobby groups will lobby, but the fact is that none of it was disclosed, it was all in secret. And I felt that, you know, if Farage is coming out and speaking out against abortion, people should know perhaps some of the influences who have his ear.
Absolutely. And also what I find curious, and this is kind of to really simplify it, I guess, was that a lot of people, when we had the Brexit vote, at the heart of it was, we don't want to be controlled by Europe. We want to be fully autonomous as a country, like that's ever been the case, through, like, awful means. And yet we have the leader of a party who is basically having their pockets lined by another country. And I find it interesting the way that is excused sometimes, or how the kind of mental gymnastics that people play to kind of excuse that, when actually it's exactly what a lot of people who voted for Brexit don't want, which is interference from foreign countries in UK policy, which I find fascinating. So do you? Yeah.
No, I agree. And I think it's really interesting because, look, if this was Russia, we would be calling it foreign interference, straight up.
Well,
and
there hasn't a reform
The
the
Nathan
Gill, the
yes,
bribes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
He's just been done for taking Russian money.
Yeah, that's just a sweep.
In exchange for trying to influence policy Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct. Yes.
So when people say, oh, well, Nigel Farage, he's going to be different, he's going to be a new broom, reform's going to be the big red button we can push that gets rid of the old guard. It's like, well, yeah, but for a much worse guard, for an even worse guard than the guards that we've had, you can't. Do you feel if people know about this that they will wake up and see that Nigel Farage isn't what he's pretending to be? I mean, I know you're an investigative journalist and you can't be giving your opinion and editorialising because it compromises.
Or I'll be sacked.
And also compromises, I know all of that. But I say, what a better question is maybe is then in that case, do you think, because I keep thinking that it's in MAGA's interest to turn us into an unofficial offshore 51st state, obviously not literally, but that if there's no regulations that stop or no sanctions, America can go as far as it wants to if we are in complete cahoots with them. The billionaires can come back and forth in their private jets. No one will be taxed. The power can be centralized to these few very rich men. And I don't think many of them care at all about abortion or gay rights. What I think they care about is power, and so they do deals with churches to say, we'll give you this if you give us that. And so do you get that feeling that this is a power grab rather than anything that's really to do with abortion rights or gay rights?
Oh, yeah. Farage doesn't care about abortion. No way. Like, his team and the people I've spoken to make that very clear. This, for him, is about power and influence. And in terms of what's in it for both Reform and the ADF, I think for Reform, look, the ADF are incredibly well connected to the White House. You know, they've got Vance's ear, like I said, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, but also it's much wider than that. So when you're an insurgent rising party, particularly one who's been allied to Trump, and there's lots of kind of echoes of MAGA policy in a Reform's manifesto and policy as it's shaping up right now, for them, it's really useful for unlocking the network, the contacts that the ADF can for them in the US. And for the ADF, Farage is really useful because in the UK, they're not very well connected. Like, pretty much everyone I spoke to in Westminster were like, who's the ADF? Never heard of them. And it's partly because they operate in the shadows, but it's partly because they're really at the genesis of their UK operation. Like, they've been here for like 5 years, but really it's this year, since Trump's re-election, that they're really focusing on the UK in the way I described previously. So for them, in kind of a Westminster, a country where they don't have influence, no one really knows about them or has heard of them, Farage is a really influential and powerful figure for them that can get them in Westminster, that can help get their message out to the British public in a kind of form that will resonate more with Brits than Americans under this free speech banner rather than this abortion banner. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like an arranged marriage. Like, neither of them.
With such an attractive bride and groom. Can I be bridesmaid?
Yeah, you've got the like evangelical Christians on one side, and then you've got Reform, and I've been to their party conference, and it was funny because it was the same weekend.
God, did you see the woman singing?
I did.
I'm an insomniac.
Yeah,
That
Andrea
is
Leadsom
the
was
worst
like,
thing
God.
I've ever. Again,
That was
it's one of it's
extraordinary.
like All's Fair. I kept rewinding it, and I was like, "Is everyone okay?" It like
The answer is a categorical no.
No. Even the people there were pretty shocked by
But
it.
no, that's what I said. It's like,
Yeah.
even the most hardline like reformer person must have seen that and been like,
Oh.
"Okay,
Have I backed the wrong
like,
horse?
what are we
Yeah.
doing?"
It was very
So you were
odd.
there.
I was there. I was behind. Yeah, I was there behind lines. And what was interesting was that same like weekend, you had the Reform Party conference, and it was wild. It was like it was just like this disco where everyone was really pissed, and there was sequined Union Jacks everywhere and great bitten hats, and like it was like
Sounds a bit cunt. Oh my God, I'm not gonna lie. That's a little bit.
It was, and they had like the Jackson 5 there. Like, people were getting on it. Like, the queue for the bars from 10 a.m. was like snaking round. Like, people were wasted by like 5. And at the same
So
time,
it was like Reform Beetha.
yeah, basically, but way less cool
Wow.
and a lot more British.
Oh, Jesus. No, make it stop.
I hate this simulation so much. What do you mean? Jackson 5 and sequin.
They were so proud about the Jackson
My
5.
ears are hurting.
Honestly, you should have been there, or you shouldn't. But at the same weekend, right, you had the March for Life, this like big anti-abortion movement that the ADF plays a big part in organising. And I was just there at the Reform conference with all these really pissed, like sweary, that type of vibe. And I was just thinking, how on earth, like just down in London, at the same time, you've got all these evangelical Christians who are incredibly straight, very, they're principled people. They don't drink, they don't.
Yeah.
And I was just like, how have these two worlds ended up colliding?
Yeah.
And I think it's just this kind of mutually useful relationship. Like, I had sources who know the ADF describe to me the lawyers who are leading it, and basically describe like Farage as the best of a bad bunch. Like, they don't love him, but compared to like, Starmer, they'll use him, and they're like, out of everyone else out there, yes, exactly.
But this is what the right are really good at.
They're so good.
Because there's no way that could happen on the left.
No.
Because they'd be like, no, you're very... And by the way, just to say, I always say it in every show where we talk about Christian nationalism or fundamentalist Christians, whatever. Anyone's got a faith, that's absolutely, or a faith-based community, that's absolutely great.
Of course,
We're not having a go at that at all. But when it's Christian nationalism that's usually really actually dressed up cosplay ethno-nationalism, then we have a big problem with it, because it's nothing that Jesus said, and everything that's scary in our and likely to push people we love into the margins. So just to say that. But on the right, that's exactly what they'll do. It's kind of, holy Magaluf. And whereas here...
It does sound kind of
Here,
good.
we just wouldn't. We'd just be like, no, we're just not close enough aligned. No, we don't like this. You're problematic.
Yeah.
And they're just like, what they must think of that. What they must think of them being smashed by lunchtime with their sequined Union Jack hats on.
Yeah.
But they're like, look, we can piggyback on this and get where we're going. So they see it like a surfboard on a tide. Do you know what I mean? They're just like, look, we got to get to that beach.
Yeah.
And we go, well, we can't get to that beach unless it's on a pristine surfboard with someone who shares our exact values.
Yes.
And we need to grill them first and go, but do you share my exact values?
Yeah.
But you've used the wrong word there, so probably no. And then we just drown in the ocean.
Do that
For the sake of not, but we've got a huge yacht you could
Yeah.
get onto. It's not the right yacht though, is it? And we don't agree with yachts because we don't like money. And so we've just got to start changing this, because this is, not to compromise beyond where we are working with people who really are anti-human rights.
Yeah.
But come on, like, what you're talking about is such an extraordinary compromise. What I don't understand, though, is what their plan is, because we have partly decriminalised, well, we haven't got there yet, but the Commons has passed the bill for partial decriminalisation of abortion, which is a big step forward. Not as big a step as I think we could have made, but it is a big step forward. And it's now in the Lords, and we expect that to pass, don't we? In America, it's Roe versus Wade was the Supreme Court. Very different here. It's not through the court, it's through Parliament. Is their strategy just change the Overton window, erode popularity through messaging, cultural messaging, getting a new party in, and seeing and understanding that might take between 10 and 20 years?
Yes, in effect. So you're right. Like, they're exporting a form of their American playbook to the UK, but with a few important differences. Like you said, so in the UK, they cannot overturn Roe v. Wade through the courts. It's legislated through Parliament. And so their efforts here, like in the US, they spent like a whole generation, like 50 years, like courting the conservative judges, working their way through smaller courts, leading up to this huge case that came kind of after a lot of the activists' lifetime that eventually overturned Roe v. Wade. So that kind of planning and long-term strategic patience is really extraordinary, and something that they are looking at here. They're not thinking they're going to turn. They're not going to change attitudes in, tomorrow or anything like that. What they're doing here is and this is what they said in an interview with me, which is that they have identified that the change needs to come through Parliament. And in their words, Parliament and MPs' priorities will change when the public mood is changing.
Right.
And they believe the public mood is changing. So all these legal cases they're taking in the UK around kind of silent prayer, abortion, buffer zones, it's not really about changing the law. They're using it as kind of a lobbying PR tool to change public mood and culture around it.
And sometimes when they lose, their base gets more angry and go, look
Exactly.
at
Look
these
how we're being
woke
silenced.
nonsense, blah, 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 blah. And it actually exacerbates their side. So
Yeah.
sometimes they take cases that they know they're going to lose because they know that losing will wind up
Yeah.
their people.
Yeah.
So we think we won. But what
Yeah.
we didn't win is the larger public opinion that
Yeah.
they are using. They're so strategic, they're so clever.
Yeah.
And I hate how clever they are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
honestly, how unstrategic we are.
No, and on
Yeah.
that strategic point, like one thing we didn't expand on too much in the piece because editors and word count, but one of their big focuses is Gen Z. Like they're really focusing on student campuses here, and they're doing it through, you know, conservative Christian student groups, pro-life student groups, and they're really focusing a lot of their attention and changing minds who there with the idea that that will then be a generation of lawyers and doctors who have a very different opinion that we do today. And that really, I think, was reflective or a sign to me is just how long-term they're thinking.
Well, they started on trans rights here about 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
And they knew that that would take a while, but they were patient and strategic and getting into positions of influence and figuring out. I think that was their canary in the coal mine in as much as they were thinking, well, we'll figure out how to change laws and figure out how to get in with influential people, and we'll do this one, and then we'll be better placed to do other ones. And by them, I don't know how much that was the ADF or how that was much just more the wider movement. So I say this all. Why don't I just say allegedly?
Yeah, say allegedly always.
But if
we need this podcast. So
yeah.
You
But
don't cut this from prison.
Exactly. So I'm just going to say allegedly.
Yeah.
But I don't mean allegedly. I mean that's what they did. Allegedly.
There we go.
It's not alleged. It's real. No, what I'll say is Neil Datta, the head of the European Parliamentary Forum for Reproductive and Sexual Rights, has a lot of information on this, and he is the best source of information and also on being able to prove this stuff. But he says that their focus isn't really on trans people. It's more because there's so few trans people. But that's the litmus test, and it's also to divide the feminist movement, and it was to divide the gay the LGBTQ plus movement, and that has been really, really effective to the extent where, as I said earlier, we are now looking at guidelines that say you will be able to be challenged in a loo if somebody else just decides, I don't think you look femme enough or masc enough, and that will be everybody who, whether they're trans or not, who someone else decides isn't quite femme enough or trans or masc enough, and if there isn't a third space loo, too bad. I mean, and you know, anyway, so that I think was a big test case for how to do these things, and they don't mind if it's going to take 12 years.
That's the scary thing.
That's what it has taken, about 12 years since they started. And we're always, what do we want this? When do we want it now? Whereas they are, what do we want this? When do we want it? In a reasonable time frame over which the period we think we might be able to achieve it. And so not that we want to start saying, oh, well, don't worry, we'll wait 12 years, but understanding an organised strategic strategy will take time is very useful, and going, okay, that's the eyes on the prize. So I just want to ask if we know in journalism you need to give everyone a right to reply. Did you reach out to Reform and the ADF before you published? And if so, what did they say?
Yeah, I had a really fun conversation with Farage.
Farage himself?
Farage himself. His press office said no comment, and I called his number. And he
got his
will
digits?
always,
Have you got Farage's number? Do you just WhatsApp? Can we WhatsApp him now?
Yeah, we're chatting all the time.
Can you call him now so
call
he
him,
can
put him
hear
on
everyone
speaker.
laughing? I just want him
That
to be
is-
like, who is this?
No, but Farage can't help but comment even when he's been
No,
told
he
not to
can't.
comment.
No.
Could you give us all his number and then we'll just all text him
We'll just be
tonight?
like,
just like funny
you smell like poo. Old school, like year 8, just going back to basics and break him down over the course of 12 to 13 years. It might work.
We've got time.
We've got time, guys.
This is one of the questions where I just don't answer.
No, yeah, no, what did he say?
What did he say?
No,
What did he say?
so,
What was his right to reply?
So it was an interesting call actually, because he started off by basically saying that, you know, I asked why his group was meeting with the ADF and kind of what was the goal there, and he, you know, was like, we meet with all kinds of people, especially with an up and coming party. And then I asked him why he'd started suddenly speaking out against abortion, and that is when he lost it. And started telling me, can I say bollocks? No,
girl,
you're gonna beat me out.
I've been
No.
the same.
We broadcast on His Majesty's internet, and I think that bollocks has been said on that before.
Okay.
That's just the feeling I get. We're not on the BBC. I really wouldn't worry.
All right, 'cause there's going to be a lot of bleeping. You ready?
Yeah,
So he
don't
said-
bleep anything. We won't bleep it. Go on.
He said-
He said,
That is bollocks, 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 utter bollocks, like 6 times. I counted it.
methinks the lady doth protest too much.
Yeah, he's normally quite a smooth political operator, and he
Yeah.
will, like, that's the first time when I've called him on a story where he's kind of lost it a little bit. And I said to him, okay, well, if you wouldn't characterize it as speaking out against abortion, how would you characterize it? And he basically said, look, I simply believe with, you know, all the medical improvements we've had over the years, we should be having a conversation about whether 24 weeks is the right cutoff point for abortions now that babies can be kept alive. And what was interesting about that response? Because on the surface, you're like, okay, not completely radical, crazy, right? But this was exactly the technique, the strategy used by the US anti-abortion movement, who they don't come out and say there should be no abortion.
No.
They
say
come out and
24
say
weeks, 16
Yeah,
weeks,
12
weeks,
weeks,
6
exactly.
weeks, no
Yeah.
weeks.
And that's exactly what they did in the US. So it was a talking point, direct. And it was my colleague, Elizabeth Dyers, who's reported on this, who spotted it. And she was like, that's exactly the talking point they used over there to eventually get it rolled back. So that was his response. The ADF was far more boring. They just said, we're non-politically partisan, and they chat to all parties. And they wouldn't go into details about any meetings.
But that was interesting because in your piece, you'd say that you'd reached out to Labour and they were like, we don't know.
Never heard of him.
We never heard of this
Who's
group.
this?
So they hadn't reached out to all parties. They hadn't.
Yeah.
And also, Farage has been using the term Judeo-Christian way of life lately, which is not something that we hear.
Toppling out of that mouth.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just had a vivid image of his mouth. Sorry, please wipe it. Keep talking, Deborah. Keep talking, please.
What can you tell us about this phrase Judeo-Christian values that's creeping in?
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's not a term that I'd heard well, probably at all, maybe once or twice in you know, almost 18 years of covering British politics. And my colleague Elizabeth, the American one, who actually knows about all of this more than I do, she instantly kind of clocked onto it. And she was like, that's exactly the term that has been kind of seized upon, particularly by the conservative Christian right or Christian nationalists in the US. And it's kind of become a shorthand for kind of, for a lot of people, say Tommy Robinson, for example, shorthand for this kind of dog whistle, this kind of anti-Muslim, anti-Islam rhetoric. But it's kind of an acceptable way because it's kind of this othering where they're kind of saying they're not like us. They're not like, you know, white people. And Farage has never, I've not heard that term on the campaign trail. It's not a term I'd heard used by Farage before. It's always the anti-immigrant stuff he's going on about. And what was interesting was a couple of days after he'd been in Congress giving evidence against the UK's freedom of speech, talking about abortion rights, he spoke at the Reform Party conference. And interestingly, he didn't use any of the abortion cases there, but otherwise echoed the free speech sentiment he did in the US, and he used the term Judeo-Christian values there. And I thought it was such an interesting difference and similarity between his messaging in the US and the UK here. But it's a term that he's using more and more. And you've got the likes of, you know, Tommy Robinson, someone else I've also had the pleasure of chatting to many a time. And
thank you for doing the work that you do, because I don't know how you do it, and I really appreciate
I need to take a bath in acid after that. Jesus fucking hell. I just want to ask, what will it mean for us if Reform win?
That's a really good question. I'm glad you're all near the bar.
Oh, God.
I think what we're seeing at the moment is a party who has said, you know, in its own terms, they're open for business. They want to raise loads of money. They're having meetings with all these people. And when you've got an insurgent party who's, especially, you know, they've had a pretty unprecedented rise in the last year. There are lots of lobbyists, lots of campaign groups, lots of campaigners who see an opportunity to build these relationships, to start influencing policy before potentially someone is in number 10. So I think what we've seen at this stage is Farage has suddenly started talking about abortion and Judeo-Christian values and these issues that he didn't speak about for 31 years of his career before. And he's taking meetings with these people. So
He's
there is
also saying
clearly...
he thinks that gay marriage was sorry, I should say equal marriage. He thinks that same-sex marriage is a mistake. He's saying now as well.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, like, after we did the story, I think, or around a kind of a few weeks period between that, suddenly they hired like this academic, James Orr, who is extremely well connected again to the US Christian right, and has said Labour's, you know, pointed out that he said he doesn't believe in abortion in any circumstances,
reason.
even rape.
You're 10 years old and you're going to die on the table. It doesn't matter.
He's a proper hardliner, and he's straight up with those views. They also won over Danny Kruger, the Conservative MP, who's got some very conservative views on gay marriage, on abortion. So I think based on like the ADF relationship and who they've been lobbying, but also these two new recruits, like we're seeing a hardening or a spreading of influence around the kind of the anti-abortion Christian nationalist or Christian conservative world. So we haven't seen money yet, you know, pass hands with Reform and this group, but Farage is a smart operator. So I think it's not just influence we've got to look out for, but it's where the money further down the road.
Which we've been talking about a lot on this podcast. We have to finish up, and I feel like, does anyone want to ask a question that they're burning to ask before we finish, or would you rather get to the bar and the loo? That's a good idea. So you could email us at guiltyfeminist@gmail.com. because Susie and I are going to talk with Jane and Elizabeth on a Zoom. Elizabeth's in New York, so she couldn't be here tonight. So there's going to be a part 2. So when you listen to it, you'll also have more information. So if you've got a question, is anyone burning, absolutely desperate to ask a question that can be answered quickly? No? Okay.
Oh.
Are there any connections with Tommy Robinson and Christian groups? Someone's asking in the audience.
He suddenly seems to have found his faith, didn't he?
Yeah.
He other than talking about them at the rally and kind of promoting it.
And they're using a lot of crosses and things in the marches now.
Yeah. Yes. And Tommy Robinson was the initial free speech warrior, right, before it became popular with the Trump administration. So he kind of had a connection to some of that well before, but it's an area that I want to dig into more because it's
yes, please.
Yeah.
Can you please go and do a writing article on that? And if you've got any other things you'd like Jane to do articles on, when you email us, guiltyfeminist@gmail.com, requests. Sorry, we don't mean to treat you like a DJ at
fine, my editors do.
At Holy Magaluf, but St. Beefer. It's what a weird world we're in now. We are so happy to have Jane here today. We really, really appreciate you coming out. We know you've got a baby and you've just schlepped out to come and talk to us, and we just appreciate it so much. We're a big round of applause for Jane Bradley, everybody. Jane, have you got anything to plug or anything, any books or other articles or anything you would like us to read or do or see, or any final words?
No, I'm a staff reporter, so I'm all right. I feel like the freelancers and the people who are self-employed should get that platform.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jane. Susan Wokoma, do you have anything to plug?
What is going on in my life?
Well, are you allowed to say?
No, I'm not. I can't talk about it.
Oh, okay.
But it's very exciting. I'm working on 2 things that is so not to do with this. Oh no, I don't think I can. Okay. Guys,
Okay.
it's just so exclusive. No,
Susie's
there's
a
few
spy,
things.
let's be honest. Posing as an actress / comedy personality.
Oh God, I wish that was the case. No, I can't speak about any of it. But
Okay.
you'll see if you follow me on socials.
Follow
Not a big
Susie
deal.
on socials.
We've got
Can we follow Jane
things.
Bradley on socials too?
Not on Twitter though, it's horrible. And
Yeah,
no,
don't.
no.
I'm not on that
Instagram.
at all.
We're off.
Instagram.
Yeah.
There'll be a whole raft of new Road to Gilead shows announced, and also other Guilty Feminist shows that are more on other topics that just aren't all about fascism. But I'm most excited about the fascism ones at the moment because I feel like we're going to organise. And the 17th of January, if you want to join that day, it's an open space day where we're going to come up with ideas. Even if you don't have any time to execute the ideas, you might come up with a killer idea that someone else can execute.
Yeah.
So 17th of January, it's going to be a really inspiring day. Amnesty International have given us their headquarters. Have you got the Amnesty?
There's one in the barn, there's one at the back end.
So you can see that there's QR codes. They're giving us that for free, and they're paying for all the security and the cleaning and everything. So if anyone fancy donating to Amnesty, just do the QR code thing, so we get a little bit of back and forth love, because they're giving us their big space, and they're also doing tech. If you are listening to this and you are around the country and you would like to do something on the 17th of January wherever you are, what we're doing is coordinating with people who are elsewhere. So you can zoom into our speakers in the morning, go and do your breakouts wherever you are, zoom back in, tell us your headlines of what you've come up with. So if you're not from London and you'd like to do that and be involved in by organising something locally, it could be 6 people in a house, it could be 200 people in a school, whatever you want to do. But what we do need to do is start doing stuff, not just talking about stuff, changing the tide. I truly believe we are the tide and we are changing. So we're turning, and I really believe there are more compassionate people who want the world to be a better place, and more people who are just not politicised at all, but who definitely don't want terrible things to happen. They don't want to live in Gilead. And those are the people we have to talk to. We have to activate people who've given up on democracy and tell them that there's hope. I'm so sorry it's down to you, but you've come out, so it is. And so get involved in any way you can. Do join our mailing list to see other shows like this. Have you enjoyed the show tonight? Jane, will you come back another time and talk to us again?
Yeah, I'll try and make it something less depressing.
Depressing.
I only do depressing.
No, because we like it because you tell us what we need to know.
Yes, no, it's important.
And you're uncovering it, and we can all talk to people that we know, our families, people in our WhatsApp groups, people on the school run, and people want to talk about it, or either that or they just put up with me. But I am not that, I'll be honest, I'm not that fun at parties at the moment. I'm like, guys, Christian nationalism, and I have livened up so many parties with my chat about the rise of fascism and what we need to do about it. And people say they want to hear. I sometimes go, oh no, sorry, let's talk about something more fun. And they go, no, this is really interesting. So either they're lying to my face or you'll be more popular talking about Christian nationalism at parties than you think. Just give it a go. Email us at guiltyfeminist@gmail.com. Kathy Lett's laughing in the front row there because I've ruined 4 of her parties. She's always got really lovely, influential people there, and I think this is my moment.
This is your moment.
This is my moment. I'm in here.
Oh,
I'm
God,
in
she's
here.
off good.
And Georgie, you went and worked on did some campaigning for Mamdani, didn't you? Yeah. Would you like to come on the podcast, ideally with someone from the campaign over there that we can zoom in or Zoom in live, or you can come and tell us and then we can zoom in later. Would you like to hear about how Mamdani did what Mamdani did? Okay, so can we get that show booked in? Would you like that before Christmas or January? We're thinking January. But
January. Everyone needs a little bit of a break.
January, okay.
Because
I
the next 3 years are going to be fucking mental.
I think we can keep it. I think we can keep the anti-fascist movement rolling through the Yuletide hour. Listen. God rest ye merry gentlemen. No. Merry gentlemen, keep it coming, keep it
going.
Coming. No rest for the well-intentioned. Thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate you. The more that you can follow us, get involved, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Apparently that matters. You can review every episode if you want, but it helps other people find the podcast. That's what we need to do. You don't need to review everyone, but you can review if you've already reviewed. You can review again.
Review mine if you want.
Review this one.
And
just say, oh yeah, that was really interesting and we need to know about this stuff. And we try and make it fun so it's not just woman's hour. where you're not allowed to make a joke.
You're not
I've
allowed to make
tried.
a joke.
There's no jokes allowed. Have you tried to make a joke on Woman's Hour, Kathy? And it just falls, doesn't it? It just like crashes in front of your face and they just stare at you. Don't. We try and make this fun, give you a bit of comedy, a bit of life and a bit of light, but also some action. People are actually actively leaving now. I'll finish.
Fair enough. We are at the end. You're not going to miss
All right,
anything.
ready?
So
I'm going to say
Jenny.
you have been listening to The Guilty Feminist and you're going to cheer. Also, could you buy my book? It would really help me.
Oh, yeah,
continue
do
this
buy the
work.
book, actually. I know
Because
that was
this work doesn't really pay very much. So if you bought my book, it's called 6 Conversations We're Scared to Have, and there's a whole chapters about how to talk to people about these things. Kathy said it was brilliant. In fact, she gave me a quote. So if you could buy that tonight, because what I really should have is a stall out there, but I'm not going to do that because I'm here to do this. I don't really want to be flogging stuff, but I think my book will help you talking to people.
Yeah.
So if everyone could just go on a website tonight, ideally one that pays their tax.
Christmas presents, get them for people who,
I think I'm going to have a night at the Choose Love shop where if you buy the book, I'll sign it for you. And then you can say, "Dear Barbara, blah, 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 blah." And it's a nice, much more personalised when you've got it signed, and I'll do a special thing for you. And it's excellent for a racist uncle. Okay. You have been listening to The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest host Susan Wokoma, and our very special guest Jane Bradley. The recording engineer was Grundy Zimbra. The Guilty Feminist theme tune was composed by Mark Hodge. The producer was Tom Slinsky for The Spontaneity Shop. Thanks to Georgia Tennant, Gina Dicio, Ned Sedgwick, Zainab Mohammed, and everyone at Angel Comedy, as well as all of you for listening. For more information about this and other episodes, visit guiltyfeminist.com.